Start. So just to remind for those who are maybe new to these meetings, we have done since the beginning of this year a series on the meaning of sustainability in the framework of Initiatives of Change Business and Economy program, based on one big idea, that is that business has a key responsibility for promoting and demonstrating sustainability. Business is very often accused of, and sometimes rightly accused of, creating the contrary of sustainability. So it is now a business responsibility to turn things in the other direction. And it is simple to say, but it's difficult to achieve. That's why we have had a variety of presentations of people with convictions and experiences in that field. Based on very deep-seated convictions and with sometimes very interesting results. As you will see, it will be the case again today. Just to say a few words about Ruchi, she's not only an entrepreneur, but also a very committed environmentalist. She studied environmental change and management at Oxford, worked in the past with the World Bank project, with the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, has been a consultant and has traveled extensively as a grassroots worker, and also practices yoga. And she's founded now a business that has been a little bit advertised in the announcement, so you're aware of that. And they have, after only 5 years, been the recipient of several awards, and one of the most impressive one is the one about, being one of the 50 businesses, young businesses, selected at the World Food Summit just this year. So Ruchi, I'd like to give you the word. You have to open your mic, which I closed just before that. Once you do that, we can hear you. Yeah,
you
very
can
good.
Hear me. Yeah.
So
great.
welcome, and very thrilled to have you.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Antoine, and thank you everyone for removing your time and coming for my talk. Yeah. So shall I begin?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
good to be.
Yeah, thank you. I see a lot of, familiar faces as Claude, and there's quite a few familiar. Yeah, it's really nice to see all of you all again. Yeah. Okay, so basically, Taru means tree in Sanskrit, and it's we chose this word Taru because it's a network of small-scale farmers across India. And initially, when I started it, I wasn't really so sure about the business model. Like, it took some time to sort of say that, okay, I'm going to work across the value chain for farmers. So in the start, it was really about how do we get the farmers in India to grow more sustainably and more to practice more climate resilient agriculture, natural farming, etc. And then I really realized down the line that actually a lot of supply chains with every product which we are working with is broken. So therein really started the whole journey of setting up supply chains and actually fixing the value chain of the product. So currently at Taru, what we specialize in is create value chains for organic products from small scale farmers from the field till the markets. So in that, there are several steps. When you actually look at the issue and the problem across India, if you start from the tier 1, which is at the farmer's level itself, usually small scale farmers in India are less than 1 acre, or that's how you define it, right? And there's a lot of fragmentation and property issues, because as the family goes down, there's no property papers, and there's a lot of land disputes, etc. So land keeps getting fragmented. So these days we have something called as a farmer producer organization, which are aggregated format, which is an aggregated format of farmers. And what we do is that we either work with existing farmer producer organizations, or we start with one farmer and sort of graduate them to a group of farmers. So taking them through the entire, value chain. And then the other thing is about the value addition. So suppose they're doing tomatoes, or they're doing certain kind of black rice or turmeric, etc. So the value addition, which is the post-harvest bit, there's a lot of losses. So wherein lies the lack of markets, because there's a lot of, say, stones in it, or there's husk, there's hair, the quality is not up to the mark. So really looking into those nitty-gritties as part of, say, value addition as an example. So what we envision currently is that we're creating markets, but main thing is the knowledge inputs across the value chain for the small scale farmer. So I'll go step by step in that. I'll come back to this slide. I'll go to the business model slide now. So when you work with a farmer community, the first thing is natural farming. What we're working with right now is a technique called natural farming, which has the indigenous cow urine and the cow dung. We make bioformulations out of it. So the indigenous cow dung and cow urine is fermented with jaggery and flour, certain kind of bioformulations like that. And similarly, we have bioformulations for integrated pest management. And also the third thing is heirloom seeds. So these kind of things are really, many of these practices, we have taken it from the farmers, but we have like a 3-day training program for that. And at the village level, we during the 3-day program, we cover many things like supply chain, pricing, quality, etc. Then the second thing is the agri-tech. So we've started a blockchain traceability and a supply chain software. So once we start working with the farmers, we start buying and selling from them. And we also have the training programs for them. But to graduate them to a level when we know that we are going to work with the farmers after a certain point, that's when we start using the blockchain traceability program. So that is really interesting, because we have a QR code on each of our products, and that traceability part is there on the QR code, and end-to-end we have started this. So right now it's in pilot phase with one of the farmer groups, and once it's successful, then we're going to scale it up to all the farmer groups across India. And our supply chain software is also very unique, because right now, when we work with small scale farmers, they don't know how to do accounting, basic accounting, like how to make a bill, invoice, how do you, what is the logistics format? So many of those things we've sort of automated so that we don't have to keep telling them again and again. And then how do we find the market is sometimes the market comes and approaches us. So we cater to their needs and we find a community, or otherwise we have a B2C online model as well, in which we have a website, and we also are into exports. So we've launched our brand in Dubai, and we're launching in other countries as well. So I've covered this model wherein the village farmers identify the training program. Then we have processing, comes to our warehouse, packaging in Mumbai. We have quality check, and then it's dispatched to the customer. So this is one of the farmers we work with, Suresh Desai ji. He's in Belgaum, and what he does is very interesting. He invented his own kind of farming, and he does multi-cropping of sugarcane, the sugarcane crop with turmeric. So he leaves a 9 feet distance between each of the sugarcane stalks. That really helps with three kind of crops he gets throughout the year. So first one is turmeric, and the other part is he does moong dal, so pulses, so that helps in the nitrogen fixing. He also puts in wheat many times, and also he doesn't need to water the plants, because the multi-cropping helps in not only mulching but also turmeric and pulses it really helps in the nitrogen fixing. So yeah, really, and FAO has also done a case study on his innovative ways. And even when the really interesting part of the jaggery powder is that we started jaggery sachets. Now, I really wanted to work with a product which is mass scale because it's a very old ancient product in India. And we did a lot of R&D and realized that in the 60s, because of political will and a lot of different things, the really ancient product crashed, like jaggery stopped getting produced. So really bringing that back into the market with the help of Suresh Desai ji's innovation was part of our endeavor. Working with an ancient product and really bringing that into the market. So now it's really picked up. Like, people really take to jaggery, and we started working 4 years ago in this. And we worked with IIT Powai as well. So did a lot of research on this, how to make the jaggery powder more free flowing and the nutritional aspects. And a lot of academic papers have also been written on this. Then we work in several communities. Now, if you look at each of the communities is a story, right? From how it started, where it started. But these are some of the states we work in, like Assam, Maharashtra, Kerala, etc. Yeah. So another case study is Dr. Shashikant Sarunke. He's an art of living teacher, and what he does is that, again, he's followed this model of growing sugarcane with turmeric, but he keeps the turmeric for 8 months in the farm. So why he keeps it for 8 months is because he says that it increases the curcumin level of the turmeric, which was really, really nice. And then Tushar Shirke is another farmer we work with in Purandar. When we started working, he had only 10 customers. Now he has, say, 1,000 customers plus in Mumbai. And the model which we adopted for him was the farmers market. So through the farmers market, he got like local farmers, local customers, etc. And he's doing a very interesting agroforestry model because in Purandar, there is no water. So during a training program, we proposed that every farmer should do like 5 fruit trees minimum, So with that, at least when there's a drought, etc., they have the fruit trees to rely on. So this is a great agroforestry model. Now, the other farmer we work with is Upendra Rabha. Now, this is a lot of drama because he, in 2010 and 11, black rice was revived through him. The government gave him 5 seeds of black rice. So he actually sowed that, and it took him 5 years to get the first black rice crop in Assam. And he did not have a market. So we started marketing his produce of, say, 500 kgs of black rice. And it went all the way to Prince Charles in London. And 3 of the Michelin star chefs picked it up. And then it came back to India. So, the reverse theory. And then black rice really started picking up. Now, given that, he's become really famous. So he stopped supplying to us. And he stopped wanting to work with the women in his village. So now what we have done is that we have tied up with the women farmers in his group. So we buy different kinds of rice, like Joha rice, sticky rice, many other things from the women farmers in his group. So yeah, it's been a very interesting case study of like 2 factions and 2 partnering groups. And the village is divided into 2 parts. So when I actually took the training program myself, both the factions of the village were there, and the women were there, and the farmer was there, and how they had a lot of tension and stress going on. Then we managed to work with only the women's group finally, which I feel very good about. Yeah. So yeah, this is sorry, the impact slide is a little up and going, but yeah, I mean, right now our impact is very multidimensional. But if you look at it just purchase, it's pretty huge in terms of, we bought this much from, say, 2021 or 2016, and it's increased this much, right? So these are some of the farmers. Sorry, I didn't expect it to become, but yeah, like we work with a group in Nagaland in near Kohima. So we have we have training programs with there. Then we work with Bibari, so the Johar rice thing. Then Mahila Umang is a very interesting group in Uttarakhand we work with. So it's a group of 1,500 women. And some of the premixes we have come from there. And again, they have a very, very interesting model is that they have a bank. So they have a cooperative bank in which all the women's savings go. So suppose we are buying chamomile flowers or we are buying a certain kind of flower, like an amaranth flower, and we make these value additions in our warehouse in Mumbai. So they grow the crop and the money which is remitted goes in the bank. And then after that, like through different training programs of say natural farming and also self-help groups, the local community, which is a Mahila Umang and the leaders, they have like village level so self-help groups in India is a very structured process, and it's through the ministry, so Ministry of Panchayati Raj, and there are like 60 lakh plus self-help groups, and it's a very beautiful system. It's at every village level. They have different women groups who work, wherein they do some food processing and they get like schemes in the local bank, and each time they do some processing, they save the money collectively and they also share the money collectively. So there are really intrinsic processes which are in place through policy, and it's not been there from now, it's been there since the 1970s, 80s when the policy came about. So the best part is that, I have access to a lot of these self-help groups which we work with, and Mahila Umang is one of them. So we really helped in the quality and fixing the supply chain with them. Like especially in the lockdown as well, we started the Farm to Table Relief Fund and we did 126 tons of relief work. So we bought out some of the products which are not selling, like chamomile flowers. So yeah, these are certain number of products. And to speak a little bit about the Farm to Table Relief Fund, which we started during COVID, it was a collaboration between chefs and some of us on a volunteer basis. And the model followed was very interesting because we floated a Google form on WhatsApp, and that became viral in between the farmers. So farmers who were in distress started contacting us during COVID, and we used to call them back and get them to make like food relief kits, and then those food relief kits were distributed in Mumbai to migrant laborers. So yeah, this is like a very interesting model we followed during COVID to work on the farmer end. Yeah, so these are certain of this. And the other interesting thing is that we work with a lot of artisanal lost grains. So if you're reviving, say, a certain kind of a rice or a grain, which doesn't exist in the market. So really seeing that how certain chefs can work with it and make like especially in Europe and across the world a lot, as we know, and we also all go and dine in restaurants, right? So that kind of really helps in picking up and making awareness of the ancient grain. So really seeing how that can be done, etc. So yeah, we work with different hospitality partners, etc. And these are certain clients and partners. And we've had many awards and recognitions, and we've been very blessed with that. But I also want to take the time to talk a little bit about my team here. This is only the core team, but we have 12 members in our team. And the model here is that every farmer group has a community leader. So suppose we are working in a particular state and it's a community in Nagaland. So we have one young person or a woman, or we appoint someone who's not necessarily on a salary basis, but who's a driven entrepreneur person who is driving the entire thing. And how do we choose the person is that I myself go and spend time, or we send a team member, and we have an evaluation matrix to see that how do we bring that person on board. So that's how we manage so many groups across India. And the next level is the blockchain traceability. So once we have the blockchain traceability, then we will be able to actually trace that, the money is going into each and every bank account, and all those details is what we are in the process of figuring out. So that will come in the future. But the intricate system right now, it works like that. And we have around 9 natural farming trainers who are on the ground. Wherever there's a training program, they go and train. And it works out really well. It's also certified by the government of India, like under the PGS Council. So that way we have like an authentic way of saying that this course is being held under the government. So that's how the model works. And yeah, I think it's very important to like focus on. It's taken me a long time to actually chisel out this model, because I would say even as of 2 years ago, we were really all over the place. So not even 2, I would say 3 years, like it's been almost 4.5 years, but I would say 2 years it took me on the ground to just work with the farmers. And we actually started doing a lot of marketing only in 2018 as a brand. So a lot of people say that, how has it taken so much time for you to scale up as a brand, right? So I say that's because we started doing marketing only in 2018. A lot of time was spent on the grassroots. And yeah, so getting the model right was the most important. And that's how we were able to scale the business, because the supply chain was fixed for at least some of our main products. So yeah. Oh, thank you so much. And yeah, the floor is open for questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ruchi. I'm sure there will be questions. I think a few people joined in the course of your presentation. So just to say, your vision is very well rooted in a very good and precise analysis of the problem that you presented at the start. That maybe you could put back some of the slides of the problem, issue, and your vision, so that we can still see them. Yes, that one. And your action has been driven by convictions, but also by a very good and precise analysis of what was needed. So yes, please do ask any questions you would like to Ruchi. You have to turn on your microphones if you want to ask a question. That's the case of Spencer, apparently.
Yeah. For a neophyte, could you explain the significance of the blockchain procedure?
Yeah. So I would say, since we don't have a core technology team, we have partnered, and we try and partner with as many as people as possible. So we've partnered with a startup in IIT Powai who has the expertise in blockchain. So that way, like I'm sending my product abroad for exports, right? And each of my product has a QR code. So every time you have a mobile phone, you can actually, you can take your mobile phone on top of the QR code, and then the farmer traceability, the entire supply chain pops up. So everything from starting from where the field is to the next level of logistics, the supply chain, to the money spent. So of course we can't give the entire, like everything, because that also means that there's a level of exploitation which might happen from the customer's end. So that's where we're really figuring out the ethical part of it, in the blockchain traceability. But at least putting the basic supply chain for the customer to see is very important. And I think this is the future, because more and more customers, like, at least I feel like organic has become a big scam now, in terms of, say, okay, I pick up an organic product in the market. How do I know that it's actually genuine? Just because it has organic certification, right? And of course, the organic certification is very stringent, but many times there's like a lot of loopholes. So I think there's a level of trust level which is beyond even certification in blockchain traceability. So I think it's an upcoming thing, and also there's a lot of work to be done in this. And the good part is that we've really, like as a consumer facing brand, like say even for exports, and also doing it in bulk rather, like batch wise. So for example, if my batch of turmeric is leaving the field on a certain truck in a certain lot to the warehouse, in this particular time period, right? So really assigning, say, a QR code to that particular lot, a batch number, and making sure that it is traceable in terms of quality, So, and I personally, I feel like we are scaling now, and I'm having a lot of issues with quality while working with small scale farmers, because especially with rice, I'll give you an example. Rice has so many stones, there are times we find like plastic things, we find like cigarette butts, and although they have cleaned it, they have cleaned the rice and sent it to Mumbai, then still why are we finding so many things, different things? So we have to clean, like we have to go through layers of cleaning. And like I have finally invested in a warehouse, and we have a gyrosphere, we have like a machine which cleans out the stones, etc. But still it's dirty. So so one thing is, of course, that yes, I stick to the model of small scale farmers, but then the more I mean, if I'm working with so many farmers, and how do I know what lot is coming from where? So automation is the only way I think I can run my company as a sane entrepreneur. Otherwise, it's really complicated. It'll be layers of Excel sheets and layers of different things, and yeah.
There's a question by Mike Smith in the chat box. It says, how many people have benefited given the size of farmers' families? And do you plan to expand to other states?
So I think like in benefiting, right? So we work with a fellowship program who asks us the same question every year. See, in agriculture, the impact is very multidimensional. And, I see Grampari, Jayashri auntie as well. Namaste, Jayashri auntie, uncle. So working with agriculture is very multidimensional. You cannot count it in black and white and say what is the direct impact and indirect impact, because in agriculture you have cycles. Like you have the summer cycle, you have the winter cycle, and you have one product cycle and a second product cycle. In India, one farmer family, everybody works, right? So the wife will also be working, but she will not be counted as a farmer, right? But whereas she is doing the processing part of it or cutting the rice. But if you talk about the direct impact, the male member is counted, right? So I think like it's very important to actually look at this question and sort of see how do we sort of redesign it in a way. Like I will say that I'm working with 30 families, 30 farmers in Satara, yeah? But actually it's not 30 farmers. It's actually 200 farmers, because at each level, there is in the processing, there are 10 women involved. At the cleaning part, there's more 10 people involved. At the logistics, there are 2 people involved. At my warehouse level, there are more people involved. So, I would really like to break up the question in that format, rather than impact and not impact. And actually, the development sector does not really understand agriculture impact. And I have a tough time explaining this to every time, there's a fellowship, they ask me for numbers. I'm like, okay, what do you want? Do you want the farmer family? Do you want this? So yeah, it's a conversation, right. I think. Yeah.
And thank you. I have a question by Gilles, and Gilles wants to speak it himself.
Yes, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So first, thank you very much for your presentation. So it's quite interesting. And what I understood is, so the way you are explaining the farmers, they can get more value added directly from the crops they are producing, from the agriculture they are involved in. And I was wondering, because in agriculture, especially in India, you have good years and you have bad years as well, with droughts and so on. And I studied some years ago the approach from Mahatma Gandhi for rural industrialization. So because the prospect was so Gandhi and then Vinoba, so they were involved in this, so that in case farmers had problems, instead of going to the moneylender and at very high rates, they could produce some very small industry items which are not connected with their own crops in case the year is bad for agriculture. And I don't know if this approach is still valid in India, but it used to be in the past. And I suppose it can be an help also to these farmers. So I wanted to have your opinion. I hope I am clear in what I explained.
So I think like there are two aspects to it, right? When it comes to natural farming, we are really not talking about one crop. So I took the example of the turmeric and the sugarcane and the moong dal and the wheat growing together. So the farmer will have at least 5 crops. So what will happen is that if one crop fails, right, just in case there is some issue, then he has at another point of the year, he has another crop to rely on. The turmeric is underground, right? So that is one way of looking at it. The second thing is that money lenders is historically, we've had the zamindar system. Now, it's a very old system which is deep rooted, but because of say public sector banks, and we have the Grameen banks, the village banks, and the self-help group system. In fact, Gram Pari itself, Jayashree auntie is working with such beautiful self-help groups across near Panchgani. So you should connect with her and ask her. She's the right person to tell you more about this. But if you look at the self-help group system, it's so wonderfully designed financially, because the women, they save everything. It goes into the bank and then they share their profits. So if there is a smart way of going about a financial model, right, then there are ways to overcome the traditional, say, money lender. And yes, the third part of the question was a surplus bit, right? Now, yes, there are exploitative ways of paying back the money lender through surplus grains, etc. It does exist. It's not like I'm saying it doesn't exist. But again, there is an opportunity there. Can we turn it into a smart way, a smart financial model? Sort of automize it. Have, say, mobile payment, and that's where people like us come. Like, can we put, say, blockchain digital payments in that, or even make it very simple, like say put, say, a UPI ID on it, a QR code on it, to make sure that the payments of even the excess stock is counted as money. So there's a lot of interesting financial models which can be devised in that, going forward. I hope this answers your question.
Yes, I think it answers, but so still, so it's good that the farmers, they have 5 crops instead of only 1. But in case they suffer a drought, then I suspect the 5 crops are properly touched. And that's why maybe it can be so interesting to add something which is not linked to agriculture, like, I don't know, so to men's shoes or whatever, so that they have a small revenues which they can try to enhance in the bad years. That was the idea from Gandhi and Vinoba at that time. So I know it's 50 years ago, or maybe almost a century ago, but nevertheless, so it was I think a very good experience for India, and so that's what I.
Yeah, but also, like, what I would suggest is, what we've done in Purandar is, like, we've given, say, 5 fruit trees, per family. It's a very small pilot we've done, but it's really successful. So I know that the mangoes are paying yield even if there's a drought, So I think the agroforestry model is really the way to go, especially, say, in Uttarakhand, where if there's floods coming, etc. Even if the trees get destroyed, if they are rooted trees, say the banj or something like that, then we know that at least the income survives through those trees. So I really vouch for the ecosystem restoration approach, which actually I really started believing in more and more after going to CO. So that's where I started actually. Yeah.
No, that's a good answer. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So we still have a question by Claude, and then I suggest we will, after this question, split in small groups. Claude.
Bonjour, Ruchi.
Bonjour, ça va?
I could even ask the question in French because I know you are fluent in French. No, looking at this your initiative and looking also at Grand Paris or other organizations like Watershed Trust Organization, you can see so many very interesting and positive initiatives, more maybe from a personal or private sector. How much these initiatives affect the way the planning of the national or state agricultural policy is affected by these?
So, actually, we don't really work so much with the policy planning, but what's really nice is during COVID, for some, like we've got really involved in many panel discussions. And that was very nice because suddenly they were asking a lot of questions, the right questions. So I would say as an entrepreneur, just being part of the policy planning through, say, panel discussions and like, say, trade commerce bodies like FICCI, etc. We tend to give the feedback, and it is incorporated in many ways. But in some sense, I truly believe that we have to take responsibility for our own planet. So yes, we need to be part of the policy making, but there's also this much I can do as a person, So because running a business is also, as it is, a full-time job, right? So either you do this or that. So one has to be practical, to run a team. And I think like I've come really far in terms of as a person in trying to manage my business. Like I've had ups and downs in my journey, and I'm much better off now. But I know that in the future, the more we scale, the more we will have a better voice to speak about. I think we still have to make a significant mark and get there. I'll be honest to say that. Yes, we have pilots going, we have a lot of things going, but I think there will come a point where the government will listen to us, as a very huge voice. So I'm waiting for that day, Claude, and I know it will happen. I'm very positive about it. Yes, but given that, I know that the UN award which we received, after that, we were asked for recommendations, etc. So I'm very happy to, I'm very happy about that, maybe such an award at a stature. We were invited to speak at the level of the cabinet secretary of the Ministry of Rural Development in India. So that itself is, it's a big honor, but also like some of my recommendations went. Now, did it come out in policy? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.